still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Sinenhlanhla Makwidiri. The time is 9:26 Central African time. We are halfway through the second hour of the show, and we're going to be exploring a developing economic and jobs story, which is tied to South Africa's tobacco sector. British American Tobacco South Africa has announced plans to close its only local cigarette manufacturing plant in Heidelberg by the end of 2026, and they're citing the rapid rise of illicit tobacco products that now account for roughly three-quarters of the market and have made legal production unsustainable. The looming closure threatens hundreds of direct jobs and potentially thousands more across the wider value chain, from farmers to distributors. And it has also reignited calls for urgent government action to try and curb illegal trade. And with us to discuss what this means for workers, the economy, policy response, and most importantly, the government's failures when it comes to reacting to the surge of illicit cigarette trading in the country, is Sinenhlanhla Mnguni, Chairperson of the Fair Trade Independent Tobacco Association. Sinenhlanhla, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to News and Views.
Morning. Thank you for having me on your show.
No, the pleasure's all ours, and I think we'll jump right into it. Just a quick analysis, background on this announcement by British American Tobacco South Africa regarding its plant in Heidelberg, and what's driving this decision to shut it down.
Look, I think it's quite simplistic to look at, the status quo in as far as the tobacco industry in South Africa through the lenses of a multinational such as British American Tobacco. We understand that they are not the only manufacturer in South Africa. There are potentially 15 others. They're not the first to close either. This particular scenario is a bit unique in that they are simply closing their manufacturing warehouse, but they will still be importing cigarettes into South Africa, which raises a number of questions, particularly in light of the fact that it's been spun that their business is not doing well as a result of the illicit trade. But I mean, generally, our understanding of business does not do well, the entire operation shuts down. But there have been reports such as one from the Daily Maverick, which simply states that they're concerned with profits, and simply one way for them to maximize profits is to, of course, reduce overheads by removing their employees from their balance sheet and ensuring that their shareholders continue to receive profits from the operation. I mean, they're not leaving the market at all. And it seems to me that they're trying to sort of wield the stick of a government by saying that, look, if you guys reduce the illicit trade, we will then come back and revisit this decision to shut down our operations, which we all know is not pragmatic and possible. Many players in the industry have had to close down, including members of the Fair Trade Independent Tobacco Association, as a result of the illicit trade, which we have emphasized for years that is a serious problem and that government is not doing anything about it.
And I wanna stick on that and dwell a bit on it, because as you mentioned, you guys have warned about the illicit tobacco trade for some time now. Over the years, how have you seen the situation almost change and evolve, and also government's response to it, and your engagements with them? Have they yielded any kind of results, or has it been getting worse and worse every single year?
Look, I think at this point, which is quite unfortunate, we've seen no engagement whatsoever between industry and government. There was a period in and around the years, let's say 2016 to about 2020, where there was continuous engagement between industry and government with regards to policy and of course, its implications on stakeholders. What's happened since the lockdown ban, which is probably the catalyst event, we've just seen progressively worse attitude in as far as the treatment of industry stakeholders from government, but also as a result of the ban on cigarettes for a period of about 5 years during the year 2020. We've seen entrants applying their trade in the illicit space, entering the market, and of course eroding the market share of legitimate players.
That's a very, very concerning turn of events. just coming back to Bata's closing in itself, have you guys quantified exactly what the closure of that facility will mean for the workers and for the local community in itself? You know, looking at the direct job losses and the ripple effects thereof.
Look, it's quite unfortunate, and of course, like we've stated on a number of occasions, it's one of the causes and effects of the ever-changing dynamics in the tobacco industry. Everyone has had to adapt, and when you fail to adapt, sometimes these are the consequences. In as far as the scenario affecting the employees, one raises a question where people have offered to buy that particular facility to rescue the jobs of those employees, but they've been told that no, the facility is not for sale, which raises a number of questions, and it tells you that the protection of employees' interests is not foremost at the decisions of the shareholders of that particular company. So it's quite unfortunate, and of course, the knock-on effect of the closure is also the impact on the community. I think it's the municipality that bears the brunt of this. Hopefully, there can be measures implemented where common sense prevails, and somehow the livelihoods of those that are located in that particular municipality can be assisted in as far as rescuing their livelihoods. Again, we've stated that a lot of the employees of this particular company are also quite skilled, and we are quite certain that a lot of them will be able to find employment in other cigarette manufacturers that are locally based. As I stated, there's quite a number of cigarette manufacturers in the country who, of course, are not intending to go anywhere and are willing to ply their trade in South Africa to ensure that they, land their hand as far as job creation and the growing of our economy is concerned.
No, most definitely. There's talk that past policy decisions like the bans on tax hikes have unintentionally fueled illicit markets. What's your view on how past policy and enforcement have, in a lot of ways, influenced where we are today? Whether it's sin tax and taxes on cigarettes, or bans on advertising and revenues that can be collected by legal cigarette traders, has saw a transition to illegal cigarettes trading.
No, certainly, and this is something that we've raised repeatedly with government. I mean, you know that every February there is a budget that is passed by government, and they, of course, seek comment from various stakeholders and the general population at large. We've submitted comments with regards to the increase of the excise that's levied on a pack of cigarettes, but unfortunately, it seems to fall on deaf ears year on year. We have encouraged government to take note of the fact that the more you increase excise, where now neighboring countries do not do the same, the more you create a gap where role players in the cigarette industry in our neighboring countries find an opportunity to make cigarettes, which will then find their way into the South African market, and there's still a profit to be made because the taxes on the other side of the border are not as high as here, which of course erodes the market of the local legitimate players, but also erodes taxes in as far as revenue collection from a receiver point of view. This is something that's logical in our estimations, and we think that government is something that government should really look at to ensure that they protect, one, the legitimate cigarette manufacturers in South Africa, but secondly, to ensure that there's revenue collection from their side, because the more the illicit trade grows, of course, we know that the less taxes that the government is going to collect.
There we go. Sinenhlanhla Mnguni, thank you so much for joining us and unpacking that very, very concerning turn of events. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
There you go. Yeah, I think a very, very concerning conversation there. I think for the longest of time now, we've been having conversations around illicit tobacco market and the impact that it has on the job market, impact that it has on the broader value chain of legal tobacco trading, and the recent news now being think, yeah, one of biggest, most prominent tobacco trading companies in the country for a very, very long time now, British American Tobacco South Africa, coming out and announcing their plans to close their only local cigarette manufacturing plant out in Heidelberg by the end of 2026. And they're citing the rapid rise of illicit tobacco products. We know of illegal cigarettes that are coming out from parts of the continent, Zimbabwe, I think, usually because they have a very big tobacco industry there. They have a lot of tobacco farms, and they seem to be the main and key point of entry for illicit cigarettes. So that's very, very concerning. And another one being the involvement of some politicians, apparently. There's been exposés throughout the years and accusations of alleged political involvement of politicians that are benefiting from sales of illicit cigarettes and the trading of illicit tobacco products in the country. Hey, question to our listeners, those that smoke, especially those that are cigarette smokers, do you know whether the cigarette packet that you buy, whether it's legal or you don't care? Is there a way of you sussing it out? I'm not a smoker myself, but it would be interesting to know because apparently illegal cigarettes now make up almost 3/4. So I'm sure at some point, especially during the COVID-19 era, we saw a surge and spike in the trade of illicit illegal cigarettes because it was banned. You couldn't buy cigarettes. So do you have a way of finding out? Do you care whether or not that the pack of 20 cigarettes that you buy are legal? How do you vet it? How do you It'd be interesting to know. You can engage with us. Our studio line is 01168000355 on WhatsApp 0617660355. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues after this.
The problem for Afia is it's so complicated. I mean, it begins with her being the woman who was put through the torture program by the US, the only woman really. But then it gets far, far worse that the CIA abducted her 3 children, apparently killed one of them, never admitted that, the 6-month-old, but then forcibly adopted the 4-year-old girl into a white Christian American family on the obvious principle you can only go to heaven if you're a white Christian American. And then the 6-year-old boy, an American citizen, Ahmed, they put him in prison in Afghanistan. And then they took Afia off to Bagram Air Force Base, where I've now been several times, and tortured her for 5 years. So this is a shocking, shocking story. And I speak as an American when I say, I'm really sorry, both to Afia and her family and to the world, that we behaved so badly. And it's our job to clear up the mess. But we need your help.
So, being